Hey, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening? Welcome to the late night live stream. It is Sunday. It is September 18th. Welcome to studentloanjustice.org. We are the oldest, the first, the largest, and in many ways, the only true grassroots organization in existence fighting for student loan justice in the first 15 years. For the first 15 years of our existence, that meant very moderately fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Now, however, I am ethically bound, intellectually, honestly, ethically bound to report to you that the federal student loan program is failed. It is finished. It is done. It's toast. We are now fighting for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans by executive order. And we have been doing that since August of 2019. I'm very proud to report that our petition started the public conversation about the question. A key interview that we did in, I think, June or August 2019 sparked the public conversation about canceling student loans by executive order. However, I am also honor duty bound or something to tell you that the Biden student loan cancellation that we just saw sucks, ladies and gentlemen. It's a trick. There's a well-worn trick that's been used against us many times over the past years and several decades now, I have to say. We're in our third decade. Can you believe that? We were around, we began in 2005, so that decade, the last decade, 10 through 20, and now here we are in 22, going on 23. So nearly 18 years we've been around. And I can tell you that it's a trick. The trick that our opposition, the student loan industry, the collection industry, the swamp, the student loan swamp, as it were, the trick they love to play on the citizenry, which is us, is to foist a fake loan cancellation on the citizens and keep the constitutionally enshrined threat of bankruptcy gone from the loans. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy, guys. It's a terrible thing to have to do. I get that. However, bankruptcy is leverage. It is the leverage that we need returned to us in order to see any kind of meaningful not fake student loan cancellation. Biden's thing was fake, guys. We haven't even seen the details of this proposal yet. We haven't even seen the freaking application yet. But history has shown that the Department of Education has never had, does not have now, and likely will never have any actual desires or intentions of actually canceling loans. The disqualification rate of every loan cancellation gimmick that they have put out over the past all the years that we've been doing this has been 99%. In the absence of bankruptcy protections, this is how the swamp rolls. We can't let ourselves be tricked again, guys. We've got a great bill, S-2598, in the Senate right now. It's a bipartisan bill. We expect a companion bill to be coming out for this soon, like in the next 10 days or 11 or 12 days. We've got to fight for this bill, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy is not important. Having the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side is extremely important. It is the most important thing. And by the way, very few people should actually have to file. In fact, maybe even no one will actually have to file when we get the right return. Just having the threat of bankruptcy back on our side should be enough to compel very widespread, very meaningful reforms, including cancellation, perhaps even total cancellation. I don't know. But this has been the missing ingredient in this whole fiasco, going back to, frankly, the 70s, when Junior Senator Joe Biden was instrumental in taking bankruptcy protections away. The founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution, ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army. They knew something. So love them or hate them, the founders knew something, and they were onto something. And lo and behold, this student loan unique exception to their wisdom proves their wisdom in spades. So anyways, guys, hey, I've got a couple announcements tonight. I'm going to keep it rather short tonight, as I tried to allude to in that song. We're doing a late night live stream tonight, so I'm going to keep it short in everyone's interest so we can all get a lot of great sleep tonight and get up and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this week. This is going to be the most important week in the history of our organization. We've got a great bill to fight for, S-2598. If you forget everything that I've say tonight, remember this. At a minimum, if no matter what you want with your student loans, if you're here and you have student loans, you should be doing our daily actions. You can see them right there. Every day we do very targeted, very smart daily actions meant specifically tailored for the times. And if you want to be helping us with this fight, that's the minimum that you'll do. I might also say we're the only group fighting this battle, guys. No other student loan advocacy groups or individuals really are fighting this battle with us. People calling themselves student loan advocates are not fighting this battle. They're absolutely asinine and stupid. Sorry to say that, but they are. Anybody who looks at this problem for any length of time pretty quickly comes to the conclusion that the removal of bankruptcy lies at the core of this whole thing. And unless and until we get that right restored, we're not going to see anything meaningful from Biden. Biden has done what he's going to do. We saw what he's going to do. He's going to do this up to $10,000 up to $10,000, up to $20,000 nonsense. There'll be an application process. It'll be taxable income, all this nonsense. I would not be surprised at all to see a disqualification rate in the 90% or maybe even 99%, which is what history has shown the Department of Education likes to run at with all the various loan cancellation gimmicks it has ever done. And as long as bankruptcy remains gone, that's the kind of thing that we're going to see. So a couple of announcements. Number one, we're looking for people to be interviewed. People who went to vocational schools, people who live in the South, older people, maybe senior citizens, even 65 years or older, or maybe even just like 50 and older, but older people. Did I say people who live in the South? I think would be particularly helpful. Right now, we are looking for people who went to UCLA. So I interviewed with the something called the Daily Bruin. I think it's called Daily Bruin. I'm a Trojan, so I'm not exactly sure, but I think their newspaper is called the Daily Bruin. Anyways, if you went to UCLA or you know somebody who went to UCLA, let me know, or just forward them to us. But if you fit any of the previous categories that I mentioned, send me an email, Alan, ALAN, at studentloanjustice.org, and tell us your story. Try and include as much detail as you want, but certainly include where you are, how much you've borrowed, maybe how much you've repaid would be helpful, particularly if you repaid a lot, which a lot of people have, and how much you still currently owe. Just include that basic information. And we will see what we can do with it, guys. Things are getting fun. Hey, I'm looking for your comments now on Facebook. So if you have them, shoot them out. Tonight, I just want to do an open forum, keep it rather quick tonight. Yeah, there's so much stuff going on right now. I don't even know where to begin. A good problem to have, to be sure. If you forget everything I said tonight, well, I already said that, but do the daily actions for sure. But get ready for this week. This week is so important, guys. We've got like early voting begins in the first couple of weeks in October. So that gives us like way less than a month, closer to 3 weeks to do everything possible. And this would behoove both the Democrats and the Republicans, by the way. We are a fiercely nonpartisan group, but both the Democrats and the Republicans should be doing everything they can to demonstrate to the 40 million distressed student loan borrowers in the country. There's well over 50 million student loan borrowers in the country, so you know. 85% of those people were never going to be able to pay their loans even before the pandemic. They were underwater. 85%. So that's around 40 million distressed student loan borrowers in the country, and we vote. And we are a huge voting bloc. We are, in fact, the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history. We were tethered during the presidential election because Biden was making all these very fancy sounding promises. So a lot of people went out and voted for the Democrats because of Biden's promises. At this point, Biden has been a huge disappointment. I have to say, however, this loan cancellation thing that he announced a month or so ago makes the case for Biden much stronger. In other words, Biden and the Democrats were quite smart in doing this loan cancellation. At least on paper, something like half of the borrowers have $20,000 or less in student loan debt. So they did themselves some great favors politically by doing this. I wouldn't say that we're a tethered voting bloc, though, because honestly, certainly in our group, 70% of all borrowers were unimpressed by the Biden cancellation proposal. And as I said before, guys, it's not to be trusted. It's tricky. If you need to know why it's tricky, go to bit.ly/SLJ tricky. And you can see why this cancellation announcement from Biden is tricky. It is not trustworthy, guys. And we say this all the time with all kinds of politicians, particularly Biden. And nobody ever listens to us until after the fact. And then we have to wag our fingers and say, I told you so. I told you so. I'm sick of being the guy that says, I told you so. We've been saying, I told you so for many years and decades. Please just spread the word about this group, if you would, please. People need to be smarter. We can't let ourselves be tricked again. The collection industry wants nothing more than for repayments to resume in January, and they will. A mass default to happen, and it will. And bankruptcy to remain gone from these loans. That's serving us up on a platter with our ass hanging out. Sorry for the imagery there. For the student loan collection goons. We don't want to be tricked like that. Again, guys, we don't. We've got to fight for bankruptcy, and that means you. This is a grassroots group. You can't sit there and eat popcorn and think that somebody else is going to do your work for you. Oh, somebody will do my daily actions for me. Or maybe I'll do one day of daily actions, then I'll space off and forget about it, and hopefully... No, guys, that's not how to win this battle. These are your loans. Your financial livelihood. Your livelihood hangs in the balance of what happens between now and October 15th, certainly, but worst case scenario, by the end of the year. At the end of the year, our bill expires, as all bills do. That's the way Congress works. And we will be screwed. We will be served up, as I said, we'll be served up like turkeys at the Thanksgiving dinner to the collection industry on January 1st. Regardless of this loan cancellation gimmick, even if it turns out to be hunky-dory and everybody gets the $10,000 or $20,000 write-off they were hoping for, we're still going to be prey. We're going to be prey. We're going to be a soft, scrumptious morsel in the mouth of the student loan wolves who would love nothing more than to come and eat our lunch, steal our lunch, I should say. Okay, guys, I'm looking for your comments now. I'm going to wrap. I'm sorry for the dilly-dallying, but you have no idea how important you are and whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy. Whatever you think about bankruptcy, I don't care. Nobody cares. You have no idea how important getting this constitutionally enshrined right back is for us. So, okay, here it is. Sorry for the dilly-dallying here. Okay, good. Are Eugenio Perez with us today? Hey, are Eugenio? Wear my sunglasses at night. That's right. You guessed it. I tried. It was a very late. I took a nap this afternoon, and I normally do my live streams much earlier. And tonight, like 30 seconds before the live stream, I was like, what song should I play? What song should I play? And the only one that I could think of was that song. Hey, Rachel Warner was this tonight. Hey, Rachel Warner, how are you? Hey, Lisa Ansel, our fearless California state chapter leader and just a great person who, oh, by the way, who made these purposely distressed hats happen. You can get your own hat. This is gonna be my plug for the night at bit.ly.slj hats. And let me just dial that in. Lisa was kind enough to organize this fundraiser for us. And I appreciate it greatly. We used to have shirts too, by the way. The shirts are over with, but the hats are still available. Please help. And by the way, if you would please, and maybe I should have said this at the top of the show, please donate if you can. We can survive and thrive and fight and win this battle on very little funding, like very little funding, like almost nothing compared to what our opposition spends against us. But we can't do it on nothing, guys. And fundraising is always just a pain in my ass. So please make it easier on us, and please donate something if you appreciate all that we've done, all that we are doing now, and all that we are poised to finally get done, guys. You have no idea how close. I mean, maybe you do. We are very close, guys, and I hope that you guys are stoked. We've never been closer. I can taste it. I can touch it. I can smell it. It's breathing on me. It's breathing on my neck. It's that close. We're close, guys, and we need you more than ever over the next month. Hopefully not by the end of the year. Hopefully it won't take that long, but this next month is just freaking important. That's about all I can say. Believe me. And if you've been with this group for any length of time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Lisa says, I'm so tired of those who are against bankruptcy protections. Why would you even argue against it? This entire argument is extremely suspect and leads me to believe that this is swamp funded. Great point, Lisa. I don't want to get off on a rant here, but let me just say that the student loan industry is very sneaky. And we have seen in years and even decades past that the student loan industry is putting operatives into the student loan space, and they are arguing sometimes very subtly and sneakily, but other times unabashedly and blatantly against the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. There's a phenomenon, fairly recent phenomenon called AstroTurf, where banks, insurance companies, corporate, swampy type organizations, including the student loan industry, will pay people to pretend to be grassroots activists. We saw it in 2010, 11, 12. I think I'm sure we all would be fools to think that that is not happening right now. It is. Our opposition is freaked out right now. They've never been closer to the end of this loan scam ever. And they are pulling out all the stops. And so you can't sit there and watch it happen, guys, because if you sit back and do nothing and you don't help us in this fight, we will be buried and baffled by this bullshit put out by the student loan swamp. That certainly means 90% of the articles you see in the media today talking about how student loan cancellation will benefit the wealthy and cause inflation and basically cause the world to end. But we're also seeing it in these weird, sneaky little Twitter people. And, I don't even think I'm going to mention this person's name because I don't want to be a distraction. I don't want her to be a distraction. I think that is half of their goal, is to distract us from our goal. So I don't think I'm going to say anything more than that. But yeah, I'm tired of it too, Lisa. And people, don't be a little wiser. Don't take everything you see on Twitter and Facebook at face value. There's a lot of fake people out there doing fake things with very scurrilous motives. And so I will just leave it at that. We've got bigger fish to fry, guys. We're close. And us being distracted does nobody any good. Hey, Rachel Warner says, would you say it's like pulling out the bottom Jenga piece to make the entire system crumble? I would say it's almost exactly like that, Rachel. The very first injustice ever inflicted against us was the restriction and then ultimate removal of bankruptcy rights from student loans. It is upon that everything else rests. So And frankly, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it's a pretty direct path. In fact, I know I'm not wrong. What am I saying? I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong. um, it is a direct path between finally getting the constitutional right of bankruptcy restored and seeing very widespread, very meaningful, not fake, meaningful student loan cancellation. Now, what that will look like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. But I would say it is almost exactly like pulling out the bottom Jenga piece to make the entire system crumble. House of Cards, pick your analogy, and it's pretty accurate. Lisa Ansel says, I'm exhausted from trying to explain the importance of bankruptcy protection to deaf ears. Why fight against the restoration of our rights from so-called activists? Lisa, I don't think I have much to say beyond what I just said. There are some vicious, nasty people claiming to be fighting for students out there, and when in fact they're doing exactly the opposite of that. The collection industry, they are drooling at the prospect of seeing these loans turn back on and bankruptcy remaining gone from the loans. Student loans in the collection industry, some people like to call it the golden unicorn of the collection industry. There's no bankruptcy protections. There's also no statutes of limitations for federal student loans, by the way. So this is essentially a license to steal that the industry has been given. And anyone, particularly somebody calling themselves a student loan advocate who argues against bankruptcy, something is not right there. Something is very not right there. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. And I'm not going to mention any names, but they know who they are. But I'm not going to waste any more time on that because it pisses me off. But anyways, the swamp's going to do what the swamp's going to do, guys. Remember this. We got this. Even before the pandemic, over half of everyone had stopped paying on their loans. Now here during the pandemic, or I guess the pandemic's over now, almost nobody's paying during this repayment pause. And regardless of what Biden does, what Biden doesn't do, what the swamp does, what the swamp doesn't do, regardless of everything else, come January 1st, very few people are going to resume paying on their loans. It's just not going to happen. The lending system is finished. It's toast. It's catastrophically failed, as I said at the top. Hey, Rachel says, can you explain why pre-Obama Ffvlp loans don't qualify? I think you mean for loan cancellation by executive order. Great question, Rachel. The federal government owns directly. They hold, own, and made originally somewhere around 87% of all student loan debt. However, prior to 2010, very few student loans were made directly by the government. Most student loans, 90, I think 85, 90%, 80, 85%, I should say, were made by private banks, and the federal government, instead of owning the loans, the federal government just guaranteed the loans against default. And that's a sort of a longer story there. But so people of a certain age, people over the age of 35 or 45 or something like that, 35, 40, chances are their student loans, at least originally, started out as these older style Ffvlp loans. These loans are not owned by the federal government. So the federal government can't just write them off. They can't do that. Instead, they have, if they wanted to write off the debt, they would have to buy the debt from these private banks. And then they would have to cancel the debt. So that's very expensive, by the way. And it's just not going to happen. I mean, Congress will never pass a law that raises hundreds of billions of dollars to buy these loans from the lenders and then cancel them. I just don't see that happening. Certainly right now, today, if the president woke up and said, okay, I'm going to cancel all student loans, he legally could not cancel these Ffvlp loans. Just can't be done. These are privately owned loans. They are still considered federal student loans, by the way. So our bankruptcy bill, S2598, absolutely does apply to these loans. And that's a very good thing. But the president just cannot cancel any loans that are privately owned. They can only cancel loans that are federally owned. So I hope that's clear. Hey, Terry Dodd's with us tonight. Hey, Terry. Daily actions matter, and they do make a difference in this fight. Either join us or leave us, Terry Dodd says. Take it from Terry. This is a working, fighting group, guys. We're not here for your entertainment. We're not here for you to sort of kick our tires and, be entertained. This is not a tennis match. This is your battle. These are your student loans that hang in the balance here. We need you with us fighting. You're not better than us, by the way. You can't prom queen your way through this and expect that everybody else is going to pull your weight for you. You've got to put in your own time on this block, folks. That's the way this rolls. And if you're not helping us, you're basically hurting us. So I agree with Terry. Either join us and help us fight or just leave, because we don't want you here if you're not going to help, put it that way. And I think Terry and Rachel and Lisa and everybody here tonight would tell you that fighting this fight feels good. It's cathartic. It helps you sleep better at night because we're doing the right thing. The founding fathers are on our side. Quite frankly, I think the founders are looking down on us and shaking their heads and saying, why have our people allowed themselves to be conquered and enslaved by this predatory debt? I think the founding fathers would wish that we would burn our loan papers in moss and throw the ashes in Boston Harbor, quite frankly. So, hey, R. Eugenio says, I stand for returning bankruptcy rights, but it makes me wonder, if they don't want student loans to be canceled, why would they allow bankruptcy rights to be returned? That would potentially have thousands of student loan borrowers filing for bankruptcy. If canceled or if filed for bankruptcy, it makes no difference. I agree with you, R. Eugenio. I totally agree with you. And I think it's a matter of just basic law. Like, there's no law, there's no constitutional principle whereby it says, and the leader of this country shall cancel loans, shall cancel debt. It's not mentioned in the Constitution. Bankruptcy is mentioned in the Constitution. So any conservative who is a lawyer, which is pretty much every conservative member of Congress, they're going to be far more receptive to an argument to return an enshrined constitutional right, far more than they are going to be swayed by an argument for free stuff, as they like to call it. And by the way, it's not free at all. The federal government has been making a king's ransom on this lending scam. People have paid and paid and paid and paid and paid. All loans could be canceled tomorrow, and the federal government, i.e. the taxpayer, would be about breaking even, but I digress. So I hope that answers your question, Eugenio. It's a defensible solution, and quite frankly, conservatives should be strongly on our side, not only on bankruptcy, but on loan cancellation as well. But for the reasons I just said, cancellation is difficult with the conservative crowd, and that's putting it very mildly, I would say. The Republicans are idiots, by the way, and we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're very, very welcome here. Spread the word about our group, by the way. But Republicans are idiots. If you look at the D versus R polling, so we're a nonpartisan group, but we're very partisan aware. If you look at the D versus R polling since Biden made the announcement, they were neck and neck. They were essentially tied on August 23rd, or the day before Biden announced the loan cancellation. Was it August 26th, maybe? Anyways, no, I think it was August 23rd. So right before Biden made the announcement, D's and R's were tied. Since the announcement, the D's have shot past the R's. And last time I checked, the D's were ahead of the R's in widespread generic congressional polling, such as would you vote for D, would you vote for R, by 1.5%, which is a very significant gain, particularly if you consider the 8 months before that, or maybe even, no, I think even longer. I think over a year before that, the Republicans were up on the Democrats by 1 to 2.5%. So that's a big move. And the only thing that I can attribute that to is Biden's student loan cancellation. So if ever there was a way for Republicans to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory this coming November, doing what they're doing on student loans is exactly what they should be doing if they want to lose, if they want to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. It makes no sense, Eugenio. This whole student loan fiasco in many ways makes no sense. I could go on, but it's a very fair question. I'm glad you asked. Lisa Ansel says, "Oh my God, Alan, I went to UCLA for undergrad." Oh, you did go to UCLA for undergrad, did I? Well, maybe they should. In fact, they absolutely should interview you, Lisa. I'm going to forward your stuff to them right after this live stream. Thank you. And if you know any other of your classmates that want to be interviewed, let the Daily Bruin people know. Cool. So that's problem solved. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa has done so much for this movement over the past year, by the way, guys. And I'm going to have something more to say on that in the coming weeks. But I will let Lisa break that news. Hey, Jackie Abram is with us tonight. Hey, Jackie. Jackie has been tearing it up on Twitter last night, and in the past weeks and months. Jackie has been kicking ass on Twitter. It's been really impressive to watch. And yeah, she says because it's our constitutional rights. Basically, the answer I just gave to why Republicans are more inclined to support bankruptcy protection than loan cancellation. Hey, Kelly Kessler says, what is the delay on voting for S-2598? What stops them from dragging their feet past the end of the year? I think there's a lot of politics involved, Kelly. I think the Democrats want to look their best to the voters right before early voting begins. So I think politics have a lot to do with the timing of all this. However, this thing could really blow up on the Democrats because, at this rate, the bill will not be passed by the time early voting begins. At this rate, it's a 50-50 whether the bill will be passed before November, 8th? Is that the Tuesday? So Democrats are playing with fire. It would behoove them to get this done sooner rather than later. And I hope if there's any DNC operatives out there watching this, you will take my words to heed. There are a lot of people, as I said, 40 million distressed student loan voters out there in the country, and they're not going to vote for promises. Biden, we already did that. We already voted for Biden on the strength of a promise. Now it's time for Biden to deliver. So he at least can check the box with the student loan cancellation. But this all comes down to bankruptcy. And there are a lot of people who were not impressed by the Biden student loan cancellation and who, on the other hand, were extremely pissed with Biden based on all the stuff he said before the election versus what he did or did not do after the election. Before the election, Biden said, I will eliminate your student loan debt. If you earn less than $125,000 a year, you went to a public college. He said that, and that is a lot of people, and they believed him, and they're pissed. And this $10,000 or $20,000 loan cancellation gimmick does not make them feel better. This loan cancellation thing, it's tricky. And as I said, go to bit.ly/SLJtricky to see why it is tricky. But a lot of people, this is not impressing. And a lot of people, what we've seen from the Democrats up to this point and what we might see before they go to vote, that remains to be seen. But getting us off the couch to vote for Democrats, I think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it's going to take a lot more than what we've seen already from the Biden administration and the Democrats. I'm certainly not impressed. I'm certainly not going to rush out and vote for a Democrat just because I think they might cancel loans after the election. We won't be fooled again, guys. We're a little smarter here on this group, and I think people generally are a little smarter. R. Eugenio says, yes, I know and agree, but the debt, according to the conservatives, we are still be paid by taxpayer. If tuition is canceled, Joe the plumber will still have to pay. If bankruptcy, then I don't know, right, Gino? I don't know. I can't speak for the Republicans. What I can tell you is that all I know is, and what I can tell you is that in the past 5 weeks, in the past 12 days, we've seen 4 articles from conservatives come out, uh, um, uh, including 2 at the Federalist, which is a very conservative place. And all of them have been calling for the return of bankruptcy protection to student loans. So I don't know why all of a sudden Joe Plumber pay my student loans argument goes out the window when we start talking about bankruptcy. I don't know. It makes no sense to me either. So you raise a good point. And some people do try and still raise that argument as they oppose bankruptcy protections. But guys, it is really almost magical how much all opposition to bankruptcy has essentially evaporated. We still see some sharp-tongued people on the internet try to argue against bankruptcy, including some people calling themselves student loan advocates, by the way, which is hilarious. And this is maybe the most positive news I have for you tonight. We have seen almost all opposition to bankruptcy evaporate, go away, to where we're even seeing Republicans and conservatives, call for the return of bankruptcy. Jackie says that's absolutely inaccurate. No one pays for write-offs. You're so right, Jackie. And don't get me started. It will not cost the taxpayers much at all to cancel these loans. Most of that, the vast majority of the student loan portfolio is interest and fees and penalties and profits. There's no good reason for the government to be profiting on student loans, guys. When the student loan program was rolled out in 1965, President LBJ declared that the loans would be free of interest, his exact words. Even Donald Trump himself said, why? Why is the government profiting on student loans? Of all the places the government shouldn't be profiting, you would think it would be student loans, right? Well, Donald Trump said that. So Martha McCullough says, they are wonderful. I don't know what you're talking about there, Martha, but I need to maybe follow this thread a little more closely. But I'm going to leave that give and take alone. People, if you're interested, you can jump onto our Facebook and you can read the comments for yourselves. Hopefully, assuming Facebook doesn't mute them and throttle them and ban them, as a lot of people on Facebook have been reporting to us lately, that their very innocuous comments have been getting banned by Facebook. What is up with that, Facebook? And I've seen the comments. They're completely legitimate, non-controversial comments at all, but yet people are getting censored for that. Oh, so Rachel says, so what can Ffvlp holders do? Ffvlp holders are kind of screwed, Rachel. The best thing that I started out as an Ffvlp borrower, by the way. The best thing that I can say to Ffvlp loan holders is that our bankruptcy bill, S2598, which lies at the core of everything, which is so important, which I hope you're going to be helping us fight for today and through the rest of this year, every single day by doing our daily actions. Our bankruptcy bill applies to federal student loans, all federally owned or guaranteed student loans. So the best thing that I can tell an Ffvlp borrower is that they need to help us fight for bankruptcy, because it's one of the only things that I can point to that will help them. I would also say there are ways to convert your student loan from the Ffvlp program into the direct loan program. So there's consolidation, and we don't give any advice, guys. The consolidation is always a dicey proposition. I'm not a fan at all of adding your signature to a new loan, which sort of legitimizes this nonsensical debt. But you can also default on the loans, and I did this, believe it or not. But if your Ffvlp loans are in default, you can demand that they be transferred directly to the Department of Education. And in fact, the Department of Education, half of all Ffvlp loans right now today are owned and administered by the Department of Education. So, and this is a result of something called eCASLA, which came around in 2010 or so, 2010, 11, 10, whereby the federal government went around buying up all these Ffvlp loans. So if you have Ffvlp loans, the first thing you might do is check and see if your Ffvlp loans happen to be owned by the federal government. They might. So call your lender. Sorry, I don't have better advice. I don't have great advice for private student loan borrowers either, guys. Private student loans, they have statutes of limitations, which is good, but fully private student loans do not have bankruptcy rights. And even if our bill is passed, will not have bankruptcy rights. Privately owned and insured, totally private. In other words, not Ffvlp loans, but totally private loans, like SoFi loans and Dave Ramsey's Splash Financial loans. All these private student loans are not cancelable by executive order. They are not going to have bankruptcy rights returned to them through our bill. There's another bill for that, HR 4907, but it's not even worth mentioning at this point. We're so late in the congressional session. There's no way that HR 4907 is going to pass. Edward McKinley says, want people to consolidate Ffvlp. Am I right? Oh, God. Ed is our fearless co-leader, so you know. There is a snake pit, a swamp nest of student loan predators, parasites. Some people call themselves student loan lawyers. Other people call themselves debt coaches. There's all kinds of people who are trying to make money off of this lending scam. And one of the big things they do is try to pressure people to consolidate their loans. I don't know. I think a lot of them may get fees from the like referral fees from the lenders for doing this. Also, loan rehabilitation is a huge predatory racket. And we don't give advice, but I can tell you that these rehabilitated loans, they default again, something like 75 or 80% of the time. They are horrible, horribly poisonous things for most people to be doing. But there are a cottage industry of these people saying, hey, I can help you with your student loans. No. A lot of people do a bait and switch like this. I'm not going to mention any names, but like this one lawyer, he goes, yeah, I can get your loans discharged in bankruptcy. Yeah, come on in. Let's sit down. And then you get there and you tell him your situation. He goes, yeah, I look closely at your thing. And I don't think bankruptcy is the right path for us to take with you. That's what they say 100% of the time, by the way. They go, but you can consolidate your loans and you can get you $0 payments and pay for 20 years or 25 years. Your loans get canceled on that. How's that sound? Sign here. That's the game being played on us, guys. Don't fall for it, please. Guys, I've gone on a little longer than I was planning on doing tonight. Maybe I will finish with one last comment from Rob Mueller. Hey, Rob. Rob says, I did it. I reconsolidated Ffvlp to Federal Direct, and all my capitalized interest was capitalized. Or I think you meant to say all your interest was capitalized. Nelnet canceled half of my payment history. I was reassured by 3 Nelnet reps this would not happen. Right. This is what happens when you consolidate a loan. There are a lot of unintended consequences. I think there's a lot of people out there who regret greatly having ever consolidated their loans. But anyways, I digress. I think I've gone on long enough. Folks, I'm going to only repeat. The first thing I should repeat is please donate. I hate to ask. Please don't make me do it. Please just donate. Let me click in the link for you to do that right here. Please donate. Please get a shirt. Just please do it. Make this fundraising easier on us. If you're an older person, if you went to vocational schools, if you're willing to testify, email me, alan@studentloanjustice.org. Take heart. We're fighting the right fight, guys. We are the pioneers. We here on this group, we're a far bigger deal than I probably portray. We would not have this bill to fight for, but for this group. We would not even be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for this group. We are the thought leaders of this whole everything that you see going on right now. And this is meaningless unless you help us fight. If you appreciate all that we've done, all that we're doing, all that we're poised to get done right now, you would help, and you would help us at a minimum with doing our daily actions. Beyond that, we're asking everyone to get their local news stations to do a story on S2598. do a story on S2598. We have people in your local media coverage area who are willing to be interviewed and put a real face to this problem. Make that happen. None of that is going to happen unless and until you make it happen. And nothing good for us is going to happen unless until we get the threat, the leverage of bankruptcy restored. This is all coming to a crescendo, guys. This is all crescendoing to something hopefully very big. Finally, we could be done with this problem after 18 years. I want that, nothing more. I want these loans gone. I want them done. I hope you agree. I hope you will help us fight. And I hope to see you everywhere in over the next 2 to 3 months doing, number one, our daily actions. So good luck, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow. Ed will be with you on Tuesday. Let's hit this week harder than we, me, you, everyone has ever hit this problem. This is the time for us to shine. Good luck. See you tomorrow. God bless everyone, and Godspeed.